Yes.
Okay, so I don't know if some of you saw, so it's been announced that April 9th at the Civic Hotel in Surrey will be our first commercial chapter event, which is the Canadian Glazing Conference. It's a 30 roughly 30 tabletops, like exhibitors, plus full day education session. Um, it's free to attend, member, non-member, doesn't matter. If you're part of the industry, you're welcome to attend. So that's going to be basically our first ever in-person chapter event, if you will, but we also extend that to non-members because we feel that's the best way to showcase what we can do and what we have to offer. So you'll see more and more information on it come out. I think we have 80%, if not 90% of the education sessions booked. Just didn't have time to update everything. But yeah, I mean, and we have, I think, almost 50% of the show of the tabletop sold. So at this point, it's looking great. It's going to be a good event. So if you would be interested to exhibit, just let us know or attend, and we'll help you with that if you can't find your way around the website. But that's great news. It's something that happened pretty quickly. We've been working on it for a while, as some of you know. So we just were waiting for a few things to announce. So that's why we did at the end of the year. Any questions?
So would the goal be essentially like a wind door for commercial glazing?
So it's more of a conference. So basically, Windor, we want commercial glaziers to participate at Windor. We want to have more and more, like to shift Windor into more of a glass build approach, if you will, where you have both. It's just for us, it's a big ask to go and recruit more the commercial side and say, hey, you should exhibit at Windor, you should attend Windor. It's going to be a process where someone feels there's enough content there for them to go every year and all of that. So at the same time, we're doing a smaller conference, more like tabletops versus exhibitions, if you will. So like, that's the main difference, but it's the same spirit, if you will. It's like exhibitors, networking, and education, but we're trying to on a smaller scale. But the goal is still that I'll just say like most of the people who are exhibitors at the Canadian Glazing Conference also committed to exhibit at Windor on a bigger scale. So it's kind of like that first level of entry, that first dynamic. And because a lot of our commercial members are out west, and it's also we got some requests a lot, like years after years, to do more events, more like significant events out west. That's why we decided to do it there. It's not said that it's going to stay there every year. It's really aimed to be a Canadian conference. So like we'll see what we do with it in the future. But for now, that's where we have it.
Nice. That sounds great. Well, you know what? Why don't we move on to Don's presentation,
Yep.
and we'll go from there. So Don, great to have you here. Maybe can you give us just a little intro, Don, of where you're coming from, and then kick it off.
Great, thanks, Brent. Happy to be here. A very new member to the chapter. I've always wanted to get further involved, but we're just starting out, so still kind of feeling our way through it. I've been in the window and door business overall, residentially and commercially for since the 80s, 86 or 87, so seen a few things along the way. Been in the commercial side probably about 10 or 12 years, and about 5.5, almost 6 with TORMAX specifically. You enter these the next sectors of this great big industry, and you think you got to a good footing. Well, I'm here to say the automatic side is a whole different ballgame again. But I'm excited. It's infectious. There's lots of excitement going on in it. It seems to be a little bit inflation proof because we are, or not inflation proof, but economy proof because we are extremely busy right now. So just happy to share what I've learned and be a resource for the team if there's a need for it.
Fantastic. Yeah, so today then, well, Don is doing a presentation on the yeah, code and accessibility issues that they've learned and figured out.
Okay, good.
Perfect.
So it's a go. Do I start it? Oh, there you
Yeah,
go.
let's go for it, Don. Take it away.
Okay, am I sharing, Isabel? Yeah.
Not yet.
Am I not doing something?
Did you share at the bottom of the screen?
Yeah, there we go.
Should
Okay.
just take a second, yeah.
Okay. Can everybody see that or
Not seeing it quite yet.
how about that one? Share?
Oh, there we go.
Wrong one?
Oh, it showed
Nope,
up
we
now.
got it.
Perfect.
You can
Thank
see
you.
it.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Okay. I've got a lot of content. Again, I don't know specifically what everybody needs out of it. A lot of you have been very involved with various building codes and things, lots and lots of experiences on your own. I don't think I have to use all 45 minutes. So, but there's some heavy content. I don't plan to read it all. I'll let you guys have a chance to go through it. I'm happy to answer questions at the end, whatever you'd like. Okay, so things that we're going to try to cover. Various people in this industry need to understand what to consider when they're setting up their projects. So I'm going to try to give you a little bit of bullet point information, what to look for. A little bit of discussion about the Adams program, what it means. Also, the various local code requirements. We have 4 branches in 4 different provinces, and it's amazing what the local code expectations are. So I give a bit of a derivative on where it came from and how they intersect with the building codes. I won't get too deep into it. I've got a lot of information, but we'll skip through it because a lot of you know some of it. I've got a bunch of slides on the various types of automatic door systems. We don't have to dwell on them, but they're there for discussion. And then I've got one slide on what I see as new or what we're seeing as trends, things happening from province to province. So with that, we'll just keep going on. Is there anything else that people need to know at this point? Have I got the bases covered at least? Yeah, for the moment? Okay. Okay, so when you set out to create this project, there's a bunch of things you need to consider. Just simply, what is the use of the door? What are the expectations of the products? How many? What type of pedestrians? How many are going to use the system? What the ownership wants? What the budget would be, but at the very end of it all the local codes, including the fire, life safety, the accessibility expectations of the region, all of that has to be taken care of. Okay, and we help with that. Typically, the architects, of course, will do their research and try to pick a system that they think meets what their requirements are. But from time to time, we have to get involved earlier if possible, and try to guide the project along. Okay, so more specifically, emergency exit during evacuations. Does it need to be locked or have a controlled access? It's, not all types of doors are suitable. So again, we've spoken about, or I mentioned before, the traffic flows. So are you controlling it coming out of an airport, hospital access? What is the actual available opening and entrance space? Obviously, the American Disabilities Act, Canada has different versions of that, as you know. And now, more recently, we're seeing, can our doors help with the energy savings or manage some stack pressure things in bigger lobbies and whatnot? Again, I mentioned the product life cycle. Maintenance is very, very important. It often gets forgotten. The original installation, everything plumb, level, and square, proper adjustments, commissioning, and then just the environmental conditions. Salt spray. Big one back east is the gravel, and the salt is different than what we see in the west, of course, but it corrodes and bungs up all our threshold connections and whatnot. So there's some things there that we wish that people would pay a little bit more attention to, keeping those areas clean and tidy. Human nature says that they won't do it, but we keep asking. Lots of content on here. Many of you know it already. It's absolutely follows the ANSI and the BHMA standards. I have another slide that gets more specific. All of our technicians are involved in this program. We highly recommend it. Most of the name brand competition absolutely adhere to this. Some of the small startups get away with it because it was hardware in nature at one time, many years back. A lot of do-it-yourselfers think they've got it covered. It's just with all the life safety requirements nowadays. There's a lot of liability in the US, and we're seeing that starting to show up now, especially with the big retail brands. Who is the last person touching the door is the one that holds the liability. So we believe in the program. We're able to teach the courses now. We support other people that teach it as well. So we're happy to be a part of this program. Without getting long in the tooth here or long-winded, just a bit of a basics of how the accessibility, the life safety, and obviously the building code standards come together. Many of you will know that recently the Canadian government's passed their Accessible Canada Act, and it's all about, it starts with the reference to the ICC ANSI 117-1 2017 standard. Because we're in Ottawa, we see this very, very aggressive there with all the federal government buildings. We do run into it in the other provinces as well. But it supersedes on the federal buildings, it supersedes everything. And so that best practices has some design standards. Again, some of you may have ran into it before. Then, of course, as all building code hierarchies, you get into the provincial governments. So the accessibility acts, only 5 provinces have got a full-on accessibility act listed there. The other one is Quebec, often is called the 6th province, but it's really more of a human rights legislation that they cobbled together. But their new guide or their recent guide is actually quite, it's a design guide as well, so it's quite elaborate as well. Alberta, interestingly enough, hasn't passed theirs. They're under pressure to do so, and then Saskatchewan, I'm hearing, is very far along as well. So there we go. Again, you guys would know this on your own, but the major cities then take all that data, combine it to what they want to see in their jurisdictions. So we run into the various differences between the Toronto and Vancouver. Winnipeg has got a slightly different slant. The other thing that we run into, I didn't dig further into the ones happening in Ontario, but BC Social Housing has its own design requirements. And of course, now Rick Hansen's foundation has got a certification program. Doesn't directly affect us yet, but as they grow their requirements, I can see some things going to be, certification for different facilities and things like that. So we're keeping our eye on that one. Again, at the very end of it all, we always have to, default to the local code compliance regulators because they could be different in all jurisdictions, as you guys very well know. So the specific codes that we have to either have our product tested to or be very, very conscious of when we're setting up projects. Obviously, the one we've spoken about, the International Code Council with the ANSI team, all of our products, whether they're made in Canada or made in US, now we've got other European things, they all have to meet the intention of the ANSI codes, the 156 set of codes. From time to time in new builds, whatnot, the references the NFPA 101, of course, you would know. And then, of course, you've got to get your local fire safety expectations, your local fire departments to sign off on things. And then, of course, a lot of the original base data, if you will, the base criteria was of that BMHA ANSI 156 original that was the hardware related. And it still shows up and very much related in the Adams group. So that we have to pay attention to all of that, or keep it in mind. And of course, in the Adams training for our technicians and our senior people, they go through that quite a bit. There we go. So for an example, for those of you who aren't kind of aware how the differences are, the difference between the low energy or the knowing act, the 156.19 versus the full power or the high energy. They're just slightly different requirements, more sensors, automatic entry and whatnot. The components have to take care of a human without them doing anything to open the door. Again, there's hours and hours of stuff that we could talk about. Those are the highlights, the difference between the low energy and the full power devices. Okay, I'm going through this awfully fast. Am I going too fast for everybody? Is everybody getting a chance to read things? We okay? Okay, I'll keep going.
Hey, Don, can I ask a quick question?
Yeah,
so
please.
I'm curious, is there a metric for the low power versus high power? Is there something that is kind of bridging those two gaps as far as the amount of energy required?
Yeah, there's specifics, and again, full disclosure, I'm not Adams certified myself. Our team is. I plan to do that now, but yes, there are specific metrics, force pressures, sensor zones. There's all sorts of rules in terms of how we must set them up and ensure that they're operational. So yeah, I could provide them. It's within the Adams program, but I can certainly make them available or direct you to the proper links and websites.
Yeah, that'd be great. Just pointing in the right direction as far as looking at.
Excellent. Thank you. Great question.
Power versus high power.
Yeah. Okay. Just some other types of door. So the main two, and everybody's aware of this, but the sliding and the swinging doors, we're really seeing a switch. Remember the full power, the high energy swing doors, mostly in grocery stores. You'd see the door would see you coming with your cart coming in, it would swing wide open. It's got guardrails, etc. Well, we're really seeing the market switch to these sliding doors now. I don't know if it's space savings or it's just easier to maintain. The market is definitely moving away from the high energy swinging doors. Still lots and lots of low energy swinging doors, though, as you can imagine. Parkades, amenities rooms, bike rooms. The big towers now to get higher density. They're putting them in so many percentage of social housing that have to have barrier-free access. So the market is just really embracing the automation part. Folding doors are not as big, only because there's so many moving parts. They're quite a maintenance hog, but they have their advantages. And then, of course, what we're seeing now is revolving doors are making a big comeback. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that in the future. But we've probably, TORMAX Canada has now installed, I think, 6 or 7, 2 going on right now in Montreal. And it's just more about making sure that the air, the predictable heat exchange is coming. They want to keep their heat and their air conditioning inside. So it's interesting because they're expensive, as you know. So telescoping, obviously this provides a lot of moving parts as well. It's slightly different than the folding door, but it provides a bigger, clear opening. We have them the market embraces them, but again, there are lots of moving pieces, so they're become a maintenance hog after a few years. But they have their requirements. If you need a bigger, clear opening, this is a perfectly solid product to recommend. These all glass doors, just for decorative or a little bit more transitional glass and picking up the natural light. The upper photo is not an automated, but we were trying to show that natural light or the elegance of an all glass unit. ICU doors, they're obviously manual, and with what BC and most of the provinces are building lots and lots of medical facilities right now. I included them because what we are seeing showing up in the specs is automated versions of these. Some of our competitors have one. We've got one coming out as well, but it's having an automated ICU door or a CCU door. We're starting to see them more and more often in the new hospital builds. Something we've done in two hospitals, more in the cardio units. These are the 3 and 4 sided hermetic doors. Very, very expensive, and very precise in terms of their installation. But if you need to control the air, the negative air pressure, keep bugs and germs on the inside, or keep the sound abatement in a surgical unit. They're very good doors, made in Germany. I'm pretty sure our main competitors have a version of these, but we're seeing an uptick in certain laboratories and whatnot in these hospitals. We put one in Deerfoot Hospital and one in Concordia, and I'm told we have more of these coming for the various hospital builds in those regions. Folding door systems, we talked about that at length. For the right application, small openings, they're perfectly okay. Just often they, just because in the North America version, they still have to have the physical breakout. So you've got a lot of moving pieces in there that, and we don't personally have one with the physical breakout. So, but we don't see very many of them in the marketplace, but they're available. Again, yeah, lots of options nowadays in these revolving doors. They did go away because they're so expensive, but we're seeing them come back in surprising locations. We haven't installed one in Vancouver, but we've got several quotes out there, and it's all about the passive house or energy performances that they're trying to see what they can do to improve their old entrance ways or their big lobby, with stack pressure issues. Some of the new, the Burnaby Pool has some, and they're really trying to embrace them again in the new builds, which we hadn't seen for a while. A little bit more information on how they operate. Because of the cabin size, we can actually calculate what that airflow is. We can give the facade designers or whatnot some metrics. As you guys know, it's still a work in process for the commercial side. So some of the other products that are available that are automated, these are these big 4-fold, all sorts of industrial door systems. For whatever reason, these heavy-duty steel ones are very, very popular in California, where climate doesn't bother them. But now we're also seeing quite a few of them into the province of Quebec, for the opposite reason, that they want to, have maintenance free against the salt and whatnot. So they come out of Germany and Switzerland, and so they're used to performing well in the Alps and in all the various locations out there. Some other things that we're bringing into the market, the other big competitors have access to some of these as well. But, they're all automated, which is, why I'm including them, just so everybody knows they're out there. Okay, so again, I don't know what I've done for my time, about 30 minutes. So what we're seeing is new. You guys may have other things that are new that maybe I haven't written down here, but the washroom packages with the handicap locking, the Aurora packages, the lights or the sound actuators. If somebody's got a problem in the bathroom, very standard in Ontario. We do them, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 a week. And now we're starting to see them show up in BC and a little bit into Manitoba, especially in the hospitals that they're building and the healthcare centers. So, we're seeing that more and more. I'm assuming that they're showing up in the other provinces as well. What we're also seeing now is these up-down activators, one at the, 4 or 5 inches off the floor, or the column switches. We've heard about them, and we've seen them in the specifications, but really they weren't being enforced or asked for. But we're really aggressively seeing them now. So when you've probably seen the same thing, but definitely the up down is here to stay. Certainly in BC. 38-inch doors. Often in Ontario, standard, we have to have a different size header for their doors. It's so available, but now we're starting to see or have those discussions in BC and a little bit into Manitoba as well. Something new for us is we're working on several of the Starbucks, but in the downtown locations and whatnot, they've got these systems being built into the automatic. They're doing it for the right reasons. They want to make sure they're barrier free. Accessibility is all good, but while we're doing that, we're mounting these emergency throw bolt systems with the actuator behind the counter. So that I'm an old dog. You think everybody in society just gets along, but this is the realities of certain areas in our cities and whatnot. But we're seeing that quite often now in terms of, especially with the Starbucks, but other fast food groups and retail. Something that it kind of ebbs and flows, but we've been asked several times, can our systems handle the keyless access? So there was a building in Vancouver that was going that way. I don't think it went, I don't think it got complete, but we keep getting asked how they could use this. I think it's more with the AI coming into the world more aggressively. We haven't seen it. We haven't done one yet, but yes, most of the suppliers have abilities to tackle these new and leading edge building designs, if you will, project designs. And then we spoke about the revolvers making a comeback as well, just the passive house, and more importantly, back east for the older buildings, they've got stack pressure, and their original swing doors aren't closing properly, and it's too expensive to change out their mechanical systems in the whole building. So they're looking at putting the revolvers in that would help alleviate those systems, those conditions, if you will. Okay, so I'm about 35 minutes. That's all I have. I don't, I'm happy to answer questions. I'm happy to feedback information later. Is there anything that somebody wanted some clarity on?
I missed the washroom packages. What was that?
So in Ontario, a washroom package is required that if it's a handicap designated bathroom, you have to have additional equipment to allow somebody that's disabled or blind to be able to confirm that the bathroom door is locked. First of all, you have a big lit up button on the front, and then the door opens, you enter it at your pace. Then there's another button there that confirms that the door is locked for privacy and decency issues. But further to that, near the toilet, there are actuators that are either lights, or you push a button or pull a switch to say that you've got trouble. So if some handicapped person has fallen and they can't get themselves righted, well, then there's an actuator that flashes or has a siren, depending on what the package is. And then somebody respecting the decency has a key, can get in there and assist that person to get themselves sorted out. They've been talked about for a long time, but in our Ontario operations, we often do them every like literally 3 packages a week, and now we're starting to see them show up in our British Columbia markets as well. So
Yeah, I saw one at the airport a couple of weeks ago. That's
right. Yeah.
Hey Don, it's Jeff. Does the revolving doors have any different thermal value than the regular door?
Not the units themselves, but because they're always considered closed, right? There's always going to be 2 edges closed. That's where the airflow control comes. We are seeing in Europe a push to begin to offer the thermally improved structural members. So I know our team's working on it. I don't think it's their number one urgency, but they are getting the same pressure as downtown Vancouver. Rich, you'd made mention that Vancouver's, the city proper, is very aggressive with this, and we know that to be true because we're working on the big Oak Ridge development, and they wanted everything that we were doing try to be thermally broken. We think we can get there in a year or two, but right now, no, the answer is the revolvers do not have thermal improvements within the structural members.
Thanks, Don.
Don, can we get that slide up again with the various ANSI standards on there? I didn't get a chance to note that all down.
Okay, well, and I think we're going to make this clear or available, but you're welcome to it.
Okay. Take other questions and I'll just get the rest of these.
So Don, I've got another question. This is Adrian.
Yeah. Hi, Adrian.
So have you run into any, so in BC specifically, have you run into any, it's going to sound ridiculous because I felt like it was irritating for me, water testing requirements for the entry doors in BC?
Oak Ridge was trying to challenge it. They had a product that they were trying to name. This was the RDH group was trying to name a specific standard. That product didn't make the water ingress performance like the residential products or even the commercial doors, the standard doors. So no, we've not run into being tested on it. We did take one of our own doors that we were using for training purposes and threw it into the test chamber just to see what would happen. And as you can imagine, they leak like a sieve. So as we're about to put up our own made in Canada solution, our doors today come out of TORMAX USA, and they're Cadillacs, they're wonderful. And we're coming out with a Chevrolet style of slider made in Canada. And so because we have control of what we want to do, we are also being mindful of how we can incorporate some improvements into our design in the near future, phase 2, phase 3, because the city of Vancouver is absolutely trying to find something that can manage all that.
Yeah, I've got 3 passive house projects that we've implemented entry doors for that. 2 of them we've now had to do water testing on.
And how did it make out?
Oh, fine, but that's more along the lines of the type of product we're still pretty early to the market on what you guys are doing. So our issues are going to be more durability than it is performance. So yes. That's our industry trade-off, right? It's like you're going to have the durability to be able to hold up for long periods of time, or you're going to get thermal and air tightness.
Well, I'm pretty certain that we or our major competitors could get to the thermal, the strutting and whatnot quite quickly. If there hadn't been a demand, now we're seeing it come along. So our second phase would be having our installation tubes and whatnot thermally broken, strutted out, and our panels can be strutted. Again, until the market really needs it or wants it. But even if we did that, because of the nature of the physics of the product, and as you pointed out, they've got to move all day long. So, what can you do to maintain the durability of that initial? So we're working on that, again, as a second priority, but trying to anticipate where the market's going to want to go. Because Quebec they're not the same as Vancouver by any stretch, but they're nosing around on how to do this better. They want to be special themselves, and they are asking about it, but they're not focused on it like Vancouver is.
Yeah, trying to create a 4-sided gasket system that doesn't get absolutely demolished by consumers is definitely a challenge. Well,
and we can get that in a hermetic door. But again, it's meant for labs and whatnot, and the high traffic is if you're trying to put that in a front lobby of a casino or something, it's not built for that. But I think we'll all come together now that they're starting to try to figure out how to measure them. I think we're all going to be, everybody is going to be trying to figure out how to do this better. So we're on it as well.
Yeah. Well, great presentation, Don. I appreciate it.
Well, happy to participate in any way, and if there's something specific we want to do next year or something and hone in on, we didn't talk about actuators or sensors or whatnot. Camden's got some really good presentations out there, or we could build something from the BEA side or whatnot. So again, I tried to just be generic, so hopefully that's just the big snapshot. And if there's something more, I'm happy to try to, backfill it to January or something for everybody.
Hey, one more quick question, Don. Can you help us? Just what are some questions when we're considering different brands? Whether it's a TORMAX or ASA Abloy or, some imported brand, help us evaluate, what are some questions we should ask?
Well, again, we're back up to what you want the system to do. So certain products are built to have a long life, and certain products are built to, get through the first 2 years of warranty, because the builder's turning the building over, and that's the end of his worries. So more it's about the operating, the movement parts, the wear parts. Most of the big brands were all equal there. The drives, some are built differently than others. Programmability, if there's going to be future requirements for you guys, Brent, typically your stuff is more specific to what the GC wants to get in and out of. But if you're the building owner building it for a specific reason, or you're expecting to hold on to the building for 30 years, then you're going to want to put some better product that's going to last longer, that you're not maintaining it. I'll give you an example. I'm not answering specific questions, but I could provide those. But I'll give you an example. One of our local grocery chains that we've been servicing forever, they've got their building side, their new build side, or the renovation side, and they specify a particular brand, and they're built for the tender market, and everybody's happy. But so the facility side, the maintenance side, phones us, and we fix that brand 2 or 3 different times. And then finally, after that, the facility guy has us change out the original brand and put ours in. So again, we can't make the building side consider doing it differently the first time. But at the end of the day, that's what they want for whatever drives their business. But there are differences in products and approaches, and it's what the value proposition is to the building owner or the one making the investment.
Super. Well, I'll do one more call for questions. Any comments or questions?
Yeah, I just had one more question. So since COVID, was there a lift in business at all just because of touchless entry and whatnot? Did that ever translate into business?
I'm going to say we had a bump in COVID. We couldn't keep up with the touchless activators, but they figured out that most of the elevators you had to touch anyway, so everybody kind of cooled their heels on that one. We still see a lot of them from more of a convenience sake than health and safety side. But I don't know that COVID is now driving it. It's more convenience and the fact that the budgets are coming in line, and the buildings are more expensive, and they want to have more attributes. So we're seeing more and more automation within those new projects. So we've been on a bit of a tear. Record months in the last 2 for some reason. I think it's just the industry is embracing the convenience and the control mechanisms, the access controllability, the various programs. What we're also seeing is the security aspect. If you got a building downtown, it's sad to talk about it, but I'm seeing a lot of that being improved just because they need to control the access. They can't just leave it loosey-goosey anymore.
Yeah, on one hand, you need to improve accessibility. On the other hand, you need to increase security.
It's interesting for sure. And every major city's got it. It's, every single one has got it. Even the small cities like Brandon's got the issues now too. So, I mean, it's just the way it is post-COVID. But again, those bigger, the big projects, especially in Vancouver and Toronto, even Montreal, they're just spending a lot more on automation, like bike rooms, in downtown Vancouver, those complexes, the bike rooms they want, throwing in automation, just because they think that's a good attribute to get the higher rent base or the higher purchase price, so it's absolutely amazing what people are automating right now.
Wow. Well, thanks so much, Don. Really appreciate your time and the info that you provided. Thanks again.
Happy to do it. I'm pleased to, become a new member of the commercial chapter. Very much looking forward to what can happen here in the few months and years to come. Thank you.
Excellent. Yeah, it's been a great group.